What if I told you that every single day in America, roughly 14 workers don't make it home? Not because of bad luck, not because of freak accidents, but because somewhere in the chain, in the yard, on the dock, in a shop, or behind the wheel, safety was treated as a cost instead of a commitment. On this episode, we're discussing a topic that sits at the very foundation of everything we do: safety. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, there were 5,070 fatal work injuries in the United States in 2005 alone. That's down about 4% from the year before, which is progress, and we should all acknowledge it. But 5,070 families, 5,070 empty chairs at dinner tables. That's not a statistic you get to round down and then feel good about it. At Warehouse on Wheels, safety isn't a program they rolled out one quarter and then moved away from. It's a core value. One of the foundational principles of who they are and how they operate every single day. You'll hear it in how they talk about their work. You'll see it in how the technicians approach every single trailer inspection, every repair, every time they move a unit in the yard. The phrase they live by is simple: safety first, safety always. Which brings me to today's guest. I'm truly honored and honestly a little bit excited to introduce someone who carries that responsibility every day with both expertise and heart, a lot of heart. Brennan Neville is the Environmental Health and Safety Manager at Warehouse on Wheels, and his portfolio is, I guess if I had to put it in one word, it's enormous. Brennan is responsible for all aspects of safety, health, environmental sustainability, and training across the entire North American operation. That means he's thinking simultaneously about a technician in one of our U.S. shops, a driver navigating an icy winter delivery up in Canada, and the potential hazard of working in proximity to rattlesnakes in our newest location in Monterrey, Mexico. Different countries, different regulatory frameworks, different languages, one standard of excellence. Brennan Neville, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Mark.
Brennan, on behalf of the entire Warehouse on Wheels family, thank you for everything that you do to keep our people safe every day. I mean, it is, you do a great job, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. To go ahead and get into it, let's give a little bit of my backstory, kind of my foundation and where the whole safety element started to flourish. So my first job, I started out as doing concrete, very physical, very laborious, and a lot of dangerous aspects at a young age that were made important to me. I had a great crew leader. His name was Rev. So Rev, if you're watching this, just know you're remembered. And he was always honest, even us young bucks, about following certain protocols, certain measures, and keep in mind that this was a mom and pa type of company. We had less than 15 people that worked there. It was, you walked in, you saw the same people every day, and you were with those guys day in and day out. So that's really where the safety element started. And then it kind of went into where my previous job was, where I held a position there for over 10 years, where more of the management came into play. And that's when I really started to have that light bulb moment. And when I say light bulb moment, what I'm getting to is that it's all about the people. That's where the safety aspect starts. It's how you're interacting with the people. It's how you're walking in. And rather than just going in, hey, guys, this is what we got to do today. It's your tonality. It's your approach. It's how you carry yourself. And it's more importantly, it's those hellos and goodbyes, thanking them for doing a good job. It's those very small, minuscule moments that make the big impact, especially to a safety culture. But how kind of Warehouse on Wheels came into my lap, I saw the position, had a great interview, and the interview alone is what kind of gravitated me in. It was very welcoming, and Mark was in the interview as well, along with our HR rep. And I could tell from just the moment of the interview, I was like, hey, this is the place for me. I want to be a part of this. I immediately got a big family vibe, which is what I loved, which was actually the opposite of what I had before. It was very corporate-y, a lot of red tape. And it was just a completely different feeling. And until you experience it, it's kind of hard to put into words, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the other core values besides safety first, safety always is people matter. So we always tie those two together, safety first, safety always, because people matter ultimately, right? So yeah, I remember when you started here, actually, something you may not even remember. Tomorrow is your 2-year anniversary.
I knew it was coming up.
Yep, it's tomorrow. So congratulations early on 2 years here in the environmental health and safety. So let's talk about that. So when you first took over the EHS manager role here at Warehouse on Wheels, what surprised you the most coming in?
The amount of locations, and then also the not necessarily the total head count, but the head count that are at those locations. So let's just think of Canada. You might have one location that has 8 techs, and another one might have 3 techs. And really, what was eye-opening is the amount of work that these guys are doing, the turnover, the whips that they're knocking in and out. That's what blew me away. And what was also very mind-blowing is that there's a standardization across the board. Whether you're in Mexico, you're in Canada, you're in the States. Very quickly, I found out, hey, everyone is on board with the safety aspect, which is, safety first, safety always. There was no shy game in that at all. One thing I really did love was just how welcoming everyone was. At the end of the day, and I know it sounds very cliche to say, but, these guys are techs, but at heart, they're people. They're just like me and you. They're in here to come in and do a good job. And it's my responsibility to make sure that we're able to make sure Tim can get home and play softball with his grandson and come in and leave the same way.
Yeah, you talked about safety first, safety always. So in your own words, that's not just a slogan. What does that phrase actually mean when you're out in the field?
That's a great question. So we'll actually go down memory lane here real quick. So my first audit, I would say, probably about a month in. Mark, remember I went to my first location. Part of my tactic was let's be easy going. Let's go in. I'm the new safety guy. Everyone's going to be on pins and needles regardless, because here he comes in. So a little thing I wanted to do was, hey, let's just walk in with no glasses and see if anyone says anything. And I did that, and it worked in theory. Exactly what happened was someone was like, hey, where's your glasses at? A little harsh, but that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't care how mean they were to me or how nice was, hey, you don't know me, but still correct me, And that's exactly what I was looking for. That's where that safety first, safety always kind of mindset comes in, where whether you're part of this team, you're an outsider visiting, is we want to make sure that you're doing the right parts to keep yourself safe, and also our team members inside. But it goes much further than that, Mark. It's when our guys are out here, they're looking out for one another. There's that team aspect. There's that, I might have my trailer I'm working on, and Mark, you have your trailer you're working on as well. But we are going to come together when the times get tough and we're in the trenches. Chris Martin's on us and he's telling us, hey, we got to get these 10 trailers done this week. We're not going to break no rules. There's several variables that come into play. A customer might call and we got to do a delivery as well. But we're going to do everything in our power to come together and make sure that we work safe at the same time. And so that's that big mindset that we push, and we execute on it very well.
No shortcuts, right? No shortcuts.
No shortcuts.
And I noticed you're wearing your safety glasses right now. So you're in the shop somewhere. Where are you at?
Yeah, so I'm at Jeffersonville right now. This is actually their parts area and their little golf cart they use to go do yard checks. But yeah, so this is all the parts area. You walk out about 10 feet in that direction, and that's where the bays are. We got about 6 bays out there that the guys work out of.
Excellent. So there's an important distinction that we make in environmental health and safety between being proactive, right? Taking proactive actions to prevent incidents before they happen, and then lagging indicators like measuring injury rates and incident reports and that stuff. How do you think about that balance at Warehouse on Wheels, and what indicators are you watching as the manager of environmental health and safety?
I don't necessarily want to say other companies, but I feel like some people in this position might overlook, but a big one is close calls for sure. And deciphering that information and not necessarily turning into a big deal, but looking at it and saying, okay, hey, we had somebody that slipped and fell. They're perfectly fine, but where do we go from this? How do we implement a game plan going forward? And then also looking at it as, okay, is this game plan something that's going to apply to all territories? In our case, not so, because Mexico's not going to be exposed to much snow. And in their case, they might fall and slip on a rattlesnake, but it's the way you're looking at it. It's finding a baseline and then, okay, how do we apply it to what areas? Close calls is a huge one. And then obviously the big nail in the coffin is definitely 100% incidents, and how are we communicating those? So in our case, we do safety alerts, where we go through and we break down the root cause of what happened, how it happened, where did that stimulate from? We're going to look at, so let's just use an example. Let's say we had an individual that cut their hand with a grinder. We're going to look at that grinder. Okay, did it have the guard? Okay, is that guard the right spec? Is it the manufacturer requirement? We want to make sure there's no modification there. All right, so the guard's good, the equipment's good. Okay, where did we lack at? Was it a lack of training? Was it a little bit of team member, competency, not following up there? And so we'll get down to the nitty gritty, and that's where we will have some tough discussions. And my place where I found that you get the most useful information, especially in incidents, is directly to the source. So that's going directly to the team member. I'll have a one-on-one with them. Give me the lowdown. Let me know, Bob, how did your hand get cut? What were you doing before? How did it kind of funnel out? Okay, what was your task? So it's getting down really to the nitty gritty mark and getting every fine detail. And you're going to hear this metaphor in a lot of different safety related items, but it's just like an onion and it's peeling back those layers, getting to the core. And sometimes that core can take a week to get to, and sometimes it takes one phone call and then bam, you got it.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of people listening that are thinking, they're all thinking the same thing. They're all thinking the same question. It's the question everybody wants to hear you answer. What's the worst injury you've ever seen, Brennan?
The worst would probably be the one I was just kind of using as an example. The hand grinder incident we had was pretty rough. You would probably agree. So we had an individual that was doing a rear bumper repair on the back of one of our trailers. They were using a 6-inch disc on a grinder, and they were grinding it out. Now, the reason why they were grinding is because the bar needed to be flush. They're following repair standards, want everything to be flush, want everything to be nice, structural integrity, et cetera, et cetera. As they're posted up underneath, the grinder had a little bit of kickback, and when it kicked back, the grinder kind of tipped backwards, and then bam, strike from Bray on his hand. And the reason why I'm putting this up in that category is because it cut so deep, it went down to his bone. So it was very, very severe in my book. One of the worst ones we've had, and probably my time being here, I would say.
Yeah, and so remembering back to that one, he was wearing everything he was supposed to wear in terms of personal protective equipment, right? He had not only safety glasses on, but he had a face shield on, and he even had gloves on, right?
And
he was doing everything he was supposed to do, and still. So what do you do, Brendan, in a situation like that where the guy's wearing gloves and it kicks back, cuts through the gloves into his hand? What's the next step? What measures do you put in place?
So at that one, it was really okay. It came down to the ergonomics. Grinders aren't the most friendliest tool to use, and that really the big element there is the kickback feature, right? So what it came down to is we came up with a action plan going further, specifically for this location, where we were going to do bi-monthly location audits. So what that means is the management team and the shop lead, we're going to go around and let's check out the equipment, let's check out the tools, let's check out our oxy torch setup. Basically eliminating any hazard there, making sure all the tools are in working order. And then it's okay, now let's give this gentleman some more fine-tuned training. So that's where it really came back to is reiterating the elements of hazards in the shop. Let's eliminate those, let's catch them before any injury stimulates. And let's also make sure that we can give this gentleman some good training so he understands how to use this tool going forward. Which that was one element in this as well. This gentleman was with us for less than that 90-day period. He was relatively new.
So let's talk about training, since you mentioned it. So walk us through kind of what a robust maintenance and training, repair training program looks like at Warehouse on Wheels. Do you do it yourself? What kind of training you're putting out there, like especially for new folks? Talk to me a little bit about your training.
All right, so I'm going to give you the whole lowdown. So when people get onboarded, they have a immediate learning path they'll get. They'll either have a new hire mechanic learning path, or they will have something more geared towards if they're going to be more of a management or like kind of an admin role. They have training in those categories as well. So we have two separate poles we're pulling from, right? And then when it comes to our actual techs, our mechanics, to get them seasoned up and get them ready, their training is very heavily focused on our, I like to call it our blanket training, our bare minimum. You got to get the standard. You got to understand it before you get out in the shop, which is our PPE standard, right? Everything from our eyewear to wearing our protective earplugs out in the shop, proper PPE as far as gloves, welding helmets, boots, that's a gimme as well. And then other items, which are like checking out your torch setup, how to set it up right. We have videos that cover all of this. So really good, useful content. Another one that I do not want to forget about, and I want to make sure we give these guys kudos. Mark, if I forget anybody, please call me out. But we have calls with our insider experts. So we got like Doug on there. We have Terry as well. And we have that maintenance call, I want to say bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. And it's just a bunch of experts. I'm in there as well. So I learn stuff in that call every time, just about. And we're in there getting down to the nitty gritty. We're talking about, hey, we're seeing these trailers are going out this way. Hey, what's up with this? How do we fix it? And not are we just having those discussions, we're also creating a training in-house. So we'll have our locations where they have Stephen techs. Hey, Rosie and Phoenix and Jeff, do you guys mind shooting this video, doing breaks? And that's just an example for you. And so like they did the break video, or I believe that was Jeffersonville, but vice versa. You get the understanding, and we're having in-house guys do our training. And so that's really where the authenticity comes from, is we're not outsourcing anything. It's all in-house. The guys you see in the videos doing the repairs are our team members.
It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So talk to me about, because you're not only training in the U.S., you're training across North America. So you got training going down to Mexico, you got training going up to Canada. How do you standardize all that training? How many languages, first of all, are you doing training in?
Yeah, so in Canada, we do have a location up in the Quebec, Laval territory. So their training will get pushed out in French. Let me backtrack, though. The power of AI, Mark, you love AI. So with AI in place, we plug in our training, and we'll tell, hey, it's in English, we need to get this translated over, et cetera, et cetera. And so that gives us the ability to pump out training in Vietnamese, Spanish, obviously English, and then French as well for our folks up in the Quebec territory. And so that applies to our weekly training. So our weekly stuff is really training that just kind of keeps the light bulb on. And what I mean by that is just kind of keeping that safety mindset going. A lot of it will be very basic stuff like staying hydrated, reinforcing proper PPE, what to do with chemical spill. It's those kind of small elements that we just don't want to forget about. And we're just slowly reiterating over the year. So like in the hot summer months, we're going to have a lot of heavy focus on heat illness and hydration coming up.
So you guys, it sounds like, have a really, really strong safety culture. How do you get that? How do you build that culture where employees actually speak up? Like you said, you walk into the shop without safety glasses on, and they're like, "Hey, man, get your glasses on." A lot of places won't do that. How do you build that culture?
It really stimulates from the management team. And Chris Martin's going to get a lot of references in this podcast, I'm sure. But it's people like Chris Martin, your Brian Canes, your Bryces, John Berryhills, all these top of the mountain individuals that work for our business that are coming to my head right now, because these are the folks that are out there day in, day out. They may not be out there all day, which is understandable, and they're definitely not micromanaging by any means. But it's giving yourself a presence to where your folks know, hey, if they need you, they can reach out. Because what that does, that connects that bridge, that gap. And what that gap is trust. You have to build that trust. Once that trust is built, then you can get to where you have folks that are 30, 60, 90 days in and still relatively new. They might see something they think is unsafe or they're just not too sure on. And, they're going to feel comfortable enough to approach you or Chris and, hey, I saw that going down over there. Is that how we do things here? And that's where that conversation starts to stimulate. And also if they're folks that have been vets, that have been here 5, 10, 15 plus years, those guys as well. They should be comfortable enough to where with management is involved, they're going to let you know if there's an issue.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about regulation, because I know in the United States you have OSHA. You're following, OSHA standards, OSHA compliance, but I'm sure it's different in Canada, right? They have completely different regulations. And then in Mexico, completely different. So you have probably had to kind of memorize, this is what it is in the U.S., but in Canada, it's a little bit different. So when we think about OSHA, for example, what are those things that keep you up at night? What are you most vigilant about at Warehouse on Wheels in terms of OSHA standards?
Our top of the line for sure is 100% PPE, because that's across all boards. All governing bodies, OSHA, or as Canada likes to call it with their letter spin, OSHA, are all very similar standards as far as PPE is the standardization across the board. So it's making sure we're up to par on that. And that's also doing, due diligence on my part in the position I'm in and making sure we're not just providing proper PPE, but the best PPE that's available. So that's like high anti-rated glove. Are we using ANSI 3, ANSI 4? Are they fire retardant? Things of that nature. And it goes much deeper than that. All regs, also embody simple things as like your machine guarding, having your guards, anything that you're using that would be flammable. So like our Oxy torch setup as well. That's kind of an umbrella of all locations. Now, where it does get a little tricky and finicky is like Canada when it comes to oil waste. So oil waste up there as well as working from heights. Two totally different ball games. So in Canada, get your own. It's not an EIN number, but it's just about it. It's identification number for you and your company to dispose of your oil, and it's digitally tracked, and there's a whole system to it. And then also working from heights as well up in Canada. There's actually a two-ply type of training, so they get working from heights training, and then if they were to use a scissor lift, that's an additional layer of training as well. Versus in the States, totally different ball game.
Let's talk about the quality product that you guys are putting out, because I've talked to almost all the GMs. I've had them on the podcast. They're all friends of the show. And they talk about, providing a clean, dark, dry, and safe product, right? For storage, mobile storage. And that's really not just a marketing promise. It has real safety implications because safe is part of it. So what role does your team play, environmental health and safety? What role do you play in making sure that every trailer that rolls off the yards across North America actually meets that safe standard?
So our main purpose, I would say, is really the standardization of our maintenance procedures. So it's whether someone new is on board or somebody that we already do have on board, it's when any change to those standards and those get blasted out worldwide. So what I mean by that is there'll be an email that gets sent out, hey, we are adjusting this. Here's the new video. Please, have your folks watch it and document, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just keeping our folks up to date on what our standardization is going to be. And the maintenance call is a big role in that as well, because if we see things that need to be changed, we will, assess it and change appropriately. That's also making sure we are in guidelines with the FMCSA and also DOT regs as well. That's a big one as well. So all those kind of go hand in hand. And we have our counterpart. I don't want to leave her out, but we got Dawn Cortesi. So she helps big time as far as from the DOT regulation aspect for our drivers. But also when I'm on site doing audits, one thing I do check out, I don't focus too much time on, but I'll go by and look at the quality of the repairs, So our guys are being safe. Morale is good. But at the end of the day, let's see how effective our work is. Let's look at the trailers. Are they obviously, dark, dry? And let's get down to it. I have not had any hiccups yet or found anything, and I think it's really due to the purpose of this maintenance call that we do. There's been a lot of positive outcome from there. It's almost as if the moment we catch something or we get whiff of anything, it stimulates the call. And then from there, we're already on a game plan. Okay, let's get this out. Let's get this corrected. And let's get the info to our folks.
Yeah. So Warehouse on Wheels is one of North America's largest mobile storage networks. You guys have 40 plus locations across North America. You've got 40,000 trailers. What does a typical week look like for you, and how do you prioritize when everything feels urgent? I'm sure you get phone calls every hour. Everybody's wanting to talk to environmental health and safety.
So it's hard to give a clean cut, dry, stamp week, honestly, because it varies so much. For example, as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to do an outreach call to one of our Canada reps. And we were coming up with a game plan for Canada as far as the safety, getting the ball rolling. We have a lot of new different heads up there as well. So it's just getting everybody on board. and the person I'll be reaching out to is a general manager. So, and then Friday I'll be prepping for training for next week. Also seeing how we look on our monthly audits. So it's an ever evolving door. Because honestly, if there's an injury that takes place, that kind of like totally throws a wrench in the whole game plan. So, because obviously, incident trumps everything else. So, if we do get an incident, there's usually a lot of nail on the chalkstone where I'm just completely focused on that for a good 24 to 48 hours, getting down to the facts, to the evidence, and covering that.
All right, Brennan. So let's get personal here. Talk a little bit about life outside of work. Well, kind of in work. Who has been one of the most influential mentors in your career when it comes to managing, environmental health and safety and all aspects of compliance? What's some of the most important things that they have taught you?
Hands down, I would say, and I'm going to name drop this individual because hopefully this podcast makes their way to him because he deserves it. But a gentleman named Curtis Evans, ex-military, and I'll keep it honest with you. My first week when I worked under him, he came out to my area and made me cry a little bit. I was very young. I was 18, 19 years old, fresh meat, fresh management. And he made me realize real quick that there's no such thing as sugarcoating anything with him. But it also made me earn his respect. And I think it was kind of a yin and a yang. Because to this day, I could text and call him and reach out for anything I needed. But the main principles he taught me were very simple and very basic. And it came down to this. You got to take care of your folks. Like, regardless of what's going on, regardless of how much pressure you have on your back from me and his standpoint, he was saying from himself, if I'm on you about this or that, it does not matter. You do not bend the rule of anything. You take care of your folks. And what he kind of had in like a cloud above that was the safety aspect. You don't ever jeopardize, risking or hurting your folks by any means. Because he said in the long run, like your people will get that energy from you. They'll get that vibe. He was real big on vibes. He was real big on energy. Also just kind of how you host your meetings. So a lot of people thought I was crazy because he was real big on high energy. So when I held my meetings, I was like kind of shouting. I might've been dancing around. I was very animated. I talked a lot with my hand. But it let my folks know that when we started the day, it was game plan. Let's get it. And, he gave me a lot of core things that I carried with me throughout my career. He was somebody that I worked for roughly 3 or 4 years altogether. And again, to this day, I could count on him. I could call him up right now and he'd answer the phone.
Great mentors are, they are hard to come by, right? So yeah, that's a great story. As we wrap it up here, outside of Warehouse on Wheels, what do you do to recharge? What are some of your hobbies? What are you passionate about when you're not thinking about, safety data and compliance calendars?
So obviously, it's going to be a cliche answer, but I like to spend time with my family, decompress, especially after a travel week where I've been out of state on a flight, jet lag, spend some time with them. I have a 5-year-old, so she definitely, runs me wild, and we'll leave it at that. She's always go, go, go. I'm a big gym guy, so if I'm not pushing no iron, I'm also tinkering on my car. And both of those are kind of a mental escape for me, just kind of break away and decompress. So that's really it.
So I hear you got a couple of reptiles in your house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's not leave that element out. So I'm also kind of have a mini zoo. So as soon as I come back from a trip, like, for example, I have a trip I'm planning up in a few weeks to go to Quebec and visit those guys. And I'm already thinking in the back of my head, all right, who's going to take care of the bearded dragon? Who's going to take care of the snake while I'm gone? And then we have 3 dogs as well. So you walk in, you'll see a bulldog. You'll see we have a little Japanese Spitz, Cane Corso as well, which is about the size of a horse. And then you walk into my office, and there's my little bearded dragon sitting there. And then upstairs, the snake, surprisingly, is actually my daughter's. So that's in her room. It's her snake. The snake's name is Lucy. I don't know why she picked Lucy, but it's Lucy, the ball python.
Awesome. Well, Brennan Neville, Environmental Health and Safety Manager, thank you for showing us the wow factor in environmental health and safety.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on.
All right, folks, that's it for this week. I'm Dr. Mark Mann, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Wow Factor.